Earth Girls Are Easy is a really strange movie with a lot of funny parts, but I think what makes it so good is it's really heavy on 80s style, especially SoCal 80s style. It's kind of like a time capsule. It was also heavily filmed in the San Fernando Valley. Now, it may not have been a huge box office success, but it's definitely gained a large cult following. So today we're checking out filming locations for the 1989 cult comedy, Earth Girls Are Easy. Let's go see what we can find. So as we go through this video, I'll be pointing out some of that SoCal 80s culture that I was talking about. The movie begins showing some space creatures aboard their ship. After the intro of the movie, we then get an overhead view of Hollywood. The camera takes us over the hill into the San Fernando Valley and begins to pan down on the home of Valerie, which is the star of our movie. As the camera pans down on the right side, we can see the Northridge Mall. And then right here, we can see a Lucky's grocery store. And on the left side, you can see a Target shopping center. So it's kind of hard to see now because, as always, there's trees blocking it, but right over here you can still see the JCPenney's building from the Northridge Mall. Right here is where that Lucky's grocery store would have been. It's now an Office Depot. And then right over here is the Target shopping center. The camera continues to pan down and then takes us into the bedroom window of Valerie. Of course, I'm not going to take us into the bedroom window, but this is the house and it still looks pretty close to how it did. And a lot of stuff happens here at this house. In the backyard is the pool where well, you know what? We'll get to that in a bit. The next day we see Valerie heading into work and she passes by a large truck that's parked in front of 2001 Flavors and then pulls into the first parking spot. Now right here in front of me is where that large light bulb would have been. And this bridge wouldn't have been here at the time. There would have been a Wendy's right here. And these buildings over here, they were also not here at the time. But right here is where that truck was parked in front of what would have been 2001 Flavors. It's now Tony's Barber Shop. But then Valerie pulls into this parking spot just on the other side of this car. After drying her nails with a hairdryer, she gets out of the car and she heads into work. And if you ask me, this shopping center looked a lot better when it was painted purple and pink and all the bright colors. But again, that's just me. The camera pans over the Curl Up and Dye salon where Valerie works, and that would have been right here. Unfortunately, that bridge up there is no longer painted pink and green, and the space that was used for the salon is now some type of an Asian restaurant that appears to not have a name. As Valerie's walking into the salon, the old lady's coming out and she stops to hold the door open for her. And in case you never noticed, that's Adelaide from Diff'rent Strokes. But yeah, right here, this is where that happened. We now find ourselves back at Valerie's house. Once she finds out that Ted's been cheating, she throws him out and he's right out here in the driveway yelling for her to let him back in. And again, the house looks really similar to how it did. That makes me really happy to see that. And then right next door, this was the nosy neighbor's house, and that window right there in the center, that's the one where she's leaning out trying to listen to their argument. Now, it looks like they've definitely upgraded the windows, but that's where she was. So the next day, Valerie's laying out in the backyard by the pool, and that's when the spaceship comes down and crashes into her pool, and that pool is located right here in the backyard of the house. And we can see a bit of the pool in this overhead shot, and yep, it's a kidney-shaped pool just like what we see in the movie, and a lot of stuff actually happens here in the backyard throughout the rest of the movie. Valerie decides to take the space creatures to the Curl Up and Dye salon, and Candy gives them a makeover, and now that they look like humans, the most logical thing to do is take them out for a night on the town. We first see them cruising down Van Nuys Boulevard, moving north, headed towards Van Nuys Street. One of the first businesses that we see is McMahon's Furniture, and McMahon's is long gone, but the sign that we see in the movie is still there. And just past McMahon's Furniture is Thrifty's Drugs, and on the other side of Van Nuys you can see Arby's and a Jack in a Box. The Thrifty's Drugs is now the 99-cent store. The building still looks similar, and on the other side of Van Nuys the Jack in a Box is still there, but Arby's is gone. It's now a Starbucks. Another thing that we see in the beginning of that scene is a bunch of banks on the right side, including a tall building that I believe is Valley Federal Savings, and they're all still there, they just have different names. Now this is another example of that SoCal 80s style that I was talking about. When they're cruising, they start fraternizing with a bunch of guys in lowriders, and of course lowriders are timeless, but that lowrider blazer screams SoCal 80s style. They then cruise right by Johnny's Broiler, which is now Bob's Big Boy Broiler, and of course you've seen this in a ton of movies. So there's actually a deleted scene that features a lot more of Johnny's Broiler. So as they're driving down the street, they see an ad on the side of a bus for Wayne Newton, and then as they pass by Johnny's Broiler, they mistake the mascot for Wayne Newton, and they start demanding to go there so they can talk to Wayne Newton. We then get a crane shot looking right through the Johnny's Broiler sign before it pans down to the drive-thru. And they would have pulled right into this driveway, and you can see that building across the street. Their car would have been parked right here, and this is actually still a drive-thru. You can see right there, somebody's picking up food. The camera pans across the Studio City movie theater, and we see them pulling up right in front, and the theater is now Bookstar, and none of the businesses here are the same. Everything has changed except for Pier 1 Imports. I can't believe it, but it's the only business that's still the same. They would have pulled up right in front of the movie theater, and it was right here where Whiplock is talking to the girls in the Jeep.
Hey, didn't you go to Van Nuys High? Van Nuys High? Aren't you Terry Harper's brother? Terry Harper's brother?
And the third girl in the Jeep, that's of course Lisa Fuller, who you would know from Monster Squad and Teen Witch.
Wanna party? Wanna party?
Whiplock then jumps into the Jeep and they take off, and as all the cars are pulling away, boom, Suzuki Samurai, more of that SoCal 80s style. We now see them pulling up to a dance club, and that was of course filmed at the Griffith Observatory. We see the Jeep coming right down this road, and things have been remodeled a little bit, and it was a crane shot, so it looks a bit different. This is probably a bit closer to the shot that we get of the dance club. We then see Valerie and everyone else pull up in front of the dance club. They would have come down that path and then parked right here in front of this wall, right where this golf cart is. We then get a shot pretty close to this one of everybody walking into the club before the camera then pans up and shows the neon sign. Now this door right here is what they used as the entrance for the dance club, and then the camera pans up and the neon sign would have been right up here. Mac then comes out onto the patio and he starts playing piano to try and impress Valerie, and that was filmed right up there on the roof. But unfortunately, that entire area is currently closed to the public. Now this is actually the correct side. That's the wall that Valerie's leaning up against. You can even see that telescope in a couple of the shots. Not the same telescope, but same area, but that's the wall she's leaning up against. And when the camera turns and it's shooting the other way, you get this shot of Los Angeles in the background behind her. Another area that's currently closed off, there's a door with a padlock on it, but if we come around this way and take a look, this is the path where Mac and Valerie are walking. Again, there's a telescope right there that you can see in the background behind them. And I think usually you're able to walk right here, but for some reason right now, a lot of stuff is closed off. Throughout most of the movie, but especially during the dance battle scene, we can see that Zeebo's wearing some Vision streetwear skate shoes, another example of that SoCal 80s style. The next day, back at Valerie's house, they're trying to fix the spaceship, and we see Whiplock riding a skateboard in the empty swimming pool, and he's riding a Vision Psycho Stick, some more of that SoCal style. Woody the pool guy comes over and he meets Whiplock and Zeebo and decides to take him surfing. Mac tries to stop him from leaving, but it's too late. Now for the I'm a Blonde musical portion of the movie, that was filmed here at Goleta Beach. And right here in this parking lot is where the surf wagon pulls up, and they see everybody out here with those 3 signs that say no dogs, no fires, and no brunettes. Everybody was dancing around out here on the sand. This is where she was walking past all of the surfboards. Right over here, this is where the hot dog vendor was, standing in front of the pier. And then right under the pier is where they carry her on top of the surfboard. Now there's one part during that scene where the camera kind of spins and we see a restaurant behind her and then some palm trees. And if we turn the camera, here's that restaurant that we see behind her. And of course, it happens to be under construction right now. They're putting a new roof on the building, but you can still tell that this is definitely the place. And then if we turn the camera a little bit, there's those palm trees. And then we turn the camera a bit more and you can see where everything starts to curve just like it does in the movie. There's a guy that kind of stands out during that whole scene, and he's wearing a Vision streetwear beret, some more of that SoCal 80s fashion. Right out here on the sand in front of the water, this is where the stage was set up and everybody was dancing around. This is where it all took place.
I can't spell BW, but I got a Porsche 'cause I'm a blonde, C-L-A-N-D.
During their excursion to the beach, they stop at a gas station that used to be located right here on this corner of Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon. So they pull into the gas station, and right here in front of me is where the car wash would have been located. And then right over here on the left would have been the gas pumps and the mini mart. And someone was selling stuffed animals on the corner. You can see a Ralph's grocery store across the street behind him. Right here where this small bank now is, that's where the stuffed animals were. The bank is now blocking the grocery store, which is still there. It's just now a Vons. While they're waiting in the car, a kid comes up and points a toy gun at them, and behind them you can see a Thrifty's drugstore, which is now a CVS, but the building still looks the same. As the kid's getting into the car, you can again see that Ralph's grocery store and the bank on the corner, both still there, just different businesses. And during this whole gas station scene, we get a really clear shot of Whiplock wearing an X watch that was made by Swatch, a little bit more of that style. Angeline then shows up, and for those of you that don't know, she's a bit of an LA icon. She asks them to move their car, and when she's walking back to hers, we get a better shot of that Thrifty's drugstore across the street. Of course, they don't know how to drive, so when they're moving the car, they create all kinds of chaos within the gas station. Here we get a shot of the bank across the street, and this gives us a better idea of where the mini mart was. Of course, the view is again blocked by trees. Whiplock and Zeebo end up tearing out of the gas station, leaving Woody stranded, and when they're leaving the gas station, we get a better view of everything going on at this intersection, including a Tiny Nailers restaurant, a Music Plus, and this sculpture that used to be located on top of the car wash. And for a period of time, you could find that sculpture at the Pick-A-Parts in Sun Valley. Unfortunately, Pick-A-Part went out of business a couple of years ago. It's another iconic San Fernando Valley business that's gone forever. They're now driving the wrong way down the freeway, and during that scene we see IROCs and mini trucks and a bunch of other cool cars, and that scene was filmed on the 210 freeway in San Dimas near the San Dimas Avenue exit. Here we see Whiplock driving towards a couple of semi-trucks, and that was filmed right here. Of course, I'm driving away from the signs because I'm not going the wrong way on the freeway. As Whiplock's getting ready to dodge the two trucks, for just a split second you can see a sign behind him that says San Dimas Avenue, San Dimas quarter mile. So that was filmed right here. You can see the sign that says San Dimas Avenue quarter mile. Different sign, but this is the right spot. This is where he dodges the two trucks. They end up losing control of the car and flying off the freeway. Well, that looked real. And they magically go from San Dimas to Inglewood, California, and they land right in the center of the famous Randy's Donuts sign. Unfortunately for them, there happened to be a bunch of cops hanging out at Randy's Donuts. And right here, this is where the cop was standing eating his giant donut, and that building back there was the Inglewood Animal Hospital. Meanwhile, back at the gas station, Mac and Valerie show up. Mac ends up getting arrested, and while Valerie's talking to the cops, you can see a sign behind them for Dupar's restaurant, because that was also located at this same intersection. Valerie's trying to get to Whiplock and Zeebo, so she picks up a bumper and smashes the lights on top of the cop car. We then see the police car passing by Circus Liquor in North Hollywood, which you've seen in a Snoop Dogg music video, you've seen it in Clueless, you've seen it in a lot of stuff. Very famous liquor store. Mac then uses his powers to get the cops to take them to the hospital once they find out that's where Whiplock and Zeebo are. The police car heads down this street and then makes a left into the driveway. The camera moves this way and pans across the hospital sign, which in the movie says Our Lady of the Valley. The camera then focuses on the hospital, which again is now blocked by trees, but I assure you the buildings look pretty similar to how they did. The police car pulls up and parks right in front of the main entrance of the hospital, which is right here, but I didn't want to get too close because there was a lot of people waiting to get picked up and it just seemed kind of rude. Mac and Valerie then head into the hospital through the main entrance and they leave the cop car right here at the curb. As they're leaving the hospital, Ted spots Valerie and comes running over and starts begging her to forgive him and take him back. And that happened right here. Again, there's a bunch of trees blocking the building, but this is the spot. The buildings do match up. So Valerie falls for it. She lets Ted get in the car and they leave the hospital. Then for no reason whatsoever, we see them supposedly making a right turn on a street right across from Fleetwood Center on Ventura Boulevard. I've shown you this building before. It's a famous building in the valley. Now, like I said, supposedly they're turning right onto a street, but if you look, they would have actually been turning into the parking lot for Corbin Bowl because that's what's right across the street from Fleetwood Center. It's the driveway for Corbin Bowl. Now, what's really funny about this scene is they're all riding in the car together, but somehow Ted does not see the three of them in the back seat. There's three grown men right behind them, but somehow Ted cannot see them. So Valerie completely forgives Ted and they head back to the house. We see them come down the street, and as they're pulling into the driveway, we see Mac, Whiplock, and Zebo running across the lawn into the backyard. They would have been coming down the street, and as they pull into the driveway, we see them running across the lawn, and that brick pillar right there still looks exactly the same. At the last minute, Valerie realizes she loves Mac, and she runs out into the backyard and calls out to him. He puts her on the spaceship, and they take off into space, and everyone lives happily ever after. Well, that's going to do it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.